Hello, and welcome to Infidelity Tales Lab. Your support means everything to us. We'd love to know, which geographical location are you joining from today? At home? On the go? Share with us below. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Foundations of Betrayal. Russell Montgomery surveyed the sprawling lakeside property from his home office window. At 42, he'd built everything from nothing. Sentinel Security Solutions had made him wealthy, respected, and envied. The company specialized in high-end security systems for the elite, protection that went far beyond basic alarms. His military background and special operations training had given him the skills and connections to build an empire. "Daddy, look what I made." 6-year-old Leo bounded into the office, clutching a drawing. Russell knelt to examine his son's artwork. "That's incredible, buddy. Is that us fishing?" "Yeah, like last weekend at the cabin. Mom said we're going hiking with Grandpa Howard and Grandma Patricia this weekend." Russell's smile tightened. His in-laws had always treated him with thinly veiled contempt. Howard Blackwell had made his fortune in real estate development and viewed Russell as beneath their social standing, despite Russell's success. Patricia Blackwell was equally cold, always whispering suggestions in Audrey's ear about how she could do better. Speaking of Audrey, his wife of 8 years glided into the room. With her honey blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, she still turned heads at charity galas and business functions. "Leo, I told you not to disturb your father when he's working," Audrey said, her tone lilting but with an edge. "He's never disturbing me," Russell replied, ruffling his son's hair. "We got a big contract with the Nolan family. I could use a break." Something flashed in Audrey's eyes. "The Nolans? Brady Nolan's family?" "Yes, why?" "No reason." Audrey smiled smoothly. "Just surprised. Howard knows them from the country club." Small world. Later that evening, after tucking Leo into bed, Russell passed by the guest room where Audrey was on the phone, speaking in hushed tones. "Perfect opportunity, yes, this weekend. Brady says he's verified it. Substantial." Her voice dropped even lower. 40 million in offshore accounts. "No, Leo won't be a problem." Russell quietly retreated, his mind racing. Brady Nolan, his newest client, was apparently communicating with his wife behind his back. And what did she mean Leo wouldn't be a problem? Over the next few days, Russell noticed more irregularities. Audrey making secretive calls, new passwords on her devices, long lunches with people she wouldn't name, and multiple conversations with her parents that ended abruptly when he entered the room. He'd never been naive. Before founding Sentinel, Russell had served in military intelligence. His instincts for danger had saved his life multiple times in war zones across the globe. Those same instincts were now screaming at him. On Thursday night, he installed a small recording device in Audrey's car, one of his company's newest prototypes. That evening, he listened to a conversation that chilled his blood. "Brady, are you sure this will work?" Audrey's voice was clear through the speaker. "Trust me," a man's voice responded. "Your husband won't suspect a thing until it's too late. The hiking trail is perfect, isolated, dangerous. One push, and both problems are solved." "Both?" "You promised Leo wouldn't." "Think, Audrey. If only Russell dies, where does the money go?" "To Leo, with you as trustee. But if both of them have an accident, everything passes directly to you as next of kin." A pause. "You're right. And my parents? We'll make sure there are no witnesses. Once it's done, we wait a respectable amount of time, then—" The man, Brady, laughed softly. "Then we'll have everything we ever wanted." Russell sat motionless, the recording continuing to play. His son's life was in danger, threatened by the woman who had given birth to him and the grandparents who should have protected him. The betrayal was absolute. He wouldn't confront them. Not yet. Russell Montgomery hadn't survived 3 tours in hostile territory by being predictable. He would go on this hiking trip, but he would be prepared, and they would learn why crossing him was the last mistake they would ever make. Chapter 2. The Precipice. "Are you excited for our adventure, Leo?" Russell asked as he loaded the final bag into their SUV early Saturday morning. "Yeah," Grandpa Howard said, "there's a super cool waterfall." Leo bounced on his toes, adventure backpack already strapped on. Audrey emerged from the house, sunglasses hiding her eyes. Let's not keep my parents waiting. Her voice was light, but Russell detected the underlying tension. During the hour-long drive to the trailhead, Russell observed Audrey checking her phone repeatedly. He'd spent the previous night planning, remembering his training. In his pocket was a specialized GPS beacon. Inside his hiking boots were reinforced steel shanks. Under his clothes, a thin protective layer of military-grade material. In his backpack, supplies that could mean survival. Most importantly, he'd given Leo precise instructions that morning while Audrey was showering. His son had looked confused, but had nodded solemnly when Russell impressed upon him the importance of following these instructions exactly. Howard and Patricia Blackwell waited at the trailhead parking lot, standing beside their luxury SUV. Howard, tall, silver-haired, with calculating eyes, greeted them with false heartiness. "There's my favorite grandson," he boomed, ignoring Russell completely. Patricia, elegant even in hiking clothes, kissed Audrey's cheeks. "Darling, you look tired." "Everything all right? Just fine, Mother," Audrey replied. "Is Brady joining us today?" Russell noticed the quick glance exchanged between the elder Blackwells. "No, dear," Patricia said. "Just family today." The trail started easily enough, a gentle slope through pine forest. Leo ran ahead, pointing out squirrels and unusual rocks. Russell kept him within sight at all times. Howard led the way, Patricia behind him, then Audrey with Russell and Leo bringing up the rear. 2 hours into the hike, they reached a fork in the trail. "This way," Howard called, pointing to the narrower path. "Best view is up this trail." Russell knew from his research that this path led to a precipitous overlook above jagged rocks. The perfect accident spot. As they climbed higher, the trail narrowed further, with a sheer drop on one side. Russell counted Howard, checking his watch 3 times in 30 minutes. Audrey's posture grew increasingly tense. "Look, Leo," Russell pointed. "See that eagle?" Leo looked up, momentarily distracted. "When you hear me say eagle again," Russell whispered, "I need you to follow those special instructions I gave you this morning. Understand?" Leo nodded, eyes serious beyond his years. They reached a spectacular overlook. Below, jagged rocks jutted from the canyon floor nearly 200 feet down. The perfect murder scene, isolated, dangerous, with no witnesses. "Magnificent view," Howard declared, standing well back from the edge. "Russell, bring Leo up closer to see the waterfall on the far side." Russell felt Audrey move behind him as he led Leo toward the edge, maintaining a safe distance. Patricia positioned herself to the right, blocking the return path. Russell felt the subtle shift in the air, the moment predators prepare to strike. "Look at that eagle, Leo," Russell said clearly. In one smooth motion, Leo dropped to the ground and rolled under a nearby bush as Russell had instructed. Simultaneously, Russell felt hands slam into his back. Audrey's hands, with shocking force. As he pitched forward, Howard lunged to shove Leo. But Leo wasn't there. Russell allowed himself to fall, controlling his descent just enough to catch a jutting root 15 feet down. The impact nearly dislocated his shoulder, but he held firm, hearing gasps from above. "Leo's gone," Patricia's panicked voice. "Find him," Howard hissed. "He must have fallen." Russell heard, scrambling above as he dangled precariously. Using techniques from his military days, he swung himself onto a narrow ledge, pain shooting through his body. From his position, he could see Leo hiding exactly where they had practiced that morning. Above, the conversation grew heated. "We need to find the boy," Howard insisted. "He's down there somewhere," Audrey said. "We need to leave now before someone comes." "What if he's alive? He saw everything." Patricia's voice trembled. "Then we finish it," came Brady's voice, shocking Russell. He had been hiding nearby all along. "I'll check the bottom. You 3 head back and establish your alibi at the ranger station." Russell pressed himself against the cliff face as loose rocks tumbled past him. When he heard the 4 sets of footsteps retreating, he carefully began working his way down using handholds he'd noted during their ascent. His body screamed in protest. He'd sustained several injuries in the fall, but adrenaline carried him through. Upon reaching solid ground, Russell moved swiftly to the designated meeting point he'd established with Leo. His son was already there, eyes wide with fear but dry. "Dad, you're hurt," Leo whispered. "I'm okay, buddy. You did perfectly." Russell embraced his son tightly. "Now I need to be very quiet. That man, Brady, is coming to look for us. We need to pretend to be really hurt, okay?" Leo nodded solemnly. They carefully positioned themselves among the rocks, Russell applying fake blood from his emergency kit to make their injuries look convincing. 20 minutes later, they heard footsteps approaching. Brady Nolan, tall, athletic with sharp features, picked his way through the rocks, scanning the area. When he spotted them, a cruel smile spread across his face. "Well," he murmured, drawing closer. "Not quite dead yet." Russell lay motionless, eyes barely open, watching Brady approach. The man drew a knife from his belt. "This wasn't the plan," Brady said conversationally, "but it works just as well. A tragic fall, followed by fatal injuries. No one will question it." As Brady knelt beside them, Leo whimpered convincingly. "Dad," he whispered. "Dad, don't move yet." Brady leaned closer to hear Leo's words, exactly as Russell had predicted he would. In that instant, Russell exploded into action, driving his fist into Brady's throat. The man stumbled back, gasping, as Russell launched himself forward in a controlled tackle. The fight was brief and brutal. Despite his injuries, Russell's combat training proved decisive. Brady lay unconscious, bound with zip ties from Russell's pack. "What did Mom say, Leo?" Russell asked quietly. "Before she pushed us." "What did you hear?" Leo's eyes filled with tears. "She said to Brady on the phone last night, 'Once they're gone, we'll split Russell's millions and never look back.' And then she laughed, Dad." She laughed. Russell froze in horror, the full weight of the betrayal washing over him. His wife hadn't just attempted to kill him. She'd been willing to murder their child for money. "What do we do now, Dad?" Leo whispered. Russell's eyes hardened. "Now," he said, checking Brady's pulse to ensure he was still alive, "we let them think they succeeded. And then we plan." Chapter 3, Playing Dead. "Stay very still," Russell whispered to Leo as distant voices echoed through the canyon. Park rangers were approaching. Responding to the accidental fall report Audrey and her parents had undoubtedly filed. They had moved Brady's unconscious form deeper into the rocks, out of immediate sight. Russell had made a critical decision. For now, the world would believe that he and Leo had died in the fall. Only then could he ensure their safety and plan his revenge. "Remember what I told you?" Russell murmured. "This is like our special spy game." Leo nodded solemnly. Despite his age, he displayed remarkable composure, a trait Russell had never wished his son would need. As the ranger voices grew closer, Russell and Leo slipped away, using the route Russell had memorized from topographical maps. He'd chosen this meeting point carefully. It connected to an old maintenance trail that would allow them to exit the park undetected. The journey was grueling. Russell's body ached from the impact of the fall, and Leo was exhausted. But by nightfall, they reached the emergency rendezvous point where Russell had stashed supplies and a prepaid phone 3 days earlier. "Who are you calling, Dad?" Leo asked as they huddled in an abandoned ranger cabin. "The only person I can trust," Russell replied, dialing a number from memory. Mitchell Hayes answered on the second ring. They had served together in special operations, saved each other's lives multiple times. After leaving the service, Mitchell had established a private security company in Arizona, maintaining ties with their former unit. Russell explained the situation in clipped, coded phrases. Mitchell understood immediately. "Stay put. I'll be there in 4 hours," he said before disconnecting. True to his word, Mitchell arrived at 2 a.m. in an unmarked SUV. His weathered face showed no shock at Russell's appearance, only cold fury at what had happened. "The news is reporting it already," Mitchell informed them. "Tragic hiking accident. Missing, presumed dead. Search suspended until morning due to dangerous conditions." Russell nodded grimly. "And the Blackwells?" "Playing the devastated family to perfection. Your wife gave a tearful interview about losing her whole world in one tragic accident." Leo, half asleep against Russell's side, stirred. "Mom's pretending to be sad." Mitchell looked at the boy with gentle eyes. That's right, little man. But we know the truth. 3 days later, from the safety of Mitchell's remote property outside Flagstaff, Russell watched the news coverage of his and Leo's memorial service. Audrey, dressed in elegant black, leaned on Brady Nolan's arm for support. Howard and Patricia Blackwell stood nearby, the picture of grieving grandparents. The investigation had ruled the deaths a tragic accident. Brady, having regained consciousness and escaped from the mountain, had seamlessly inserted himself into the narrative as a family friend providing support during this difficult time. They didn't even find bodies, Russell muttered, watching the ceremony. That's what money buys, Mitchell replied. Your in-laws' influence fast-tracked the declaration of death. And look, he pointed to the screen where a news ticker announced that Audrey Montgomery had been named CEO of Sentinel Security Solutions following the tragic death of its founder. They're not wasting any time, Russell said, his voice dangerously quiet. That night, after Leo had fallen asleep, Russell outlined his situation to Mitchell and two other former teammates who had arrived at the safe house. Diego Rivera, a former intelligence specialist, and Vince Calloway, their unit's one-time logistics expert. They tried to kill my son for money, Russell concluded, his voice steady but cold. I won't just disappear and let them enjoy the spoils. What do you need from us? Diego asked simply. Resources, intelligence, and time to heal and plan. Mitchell nodded. You've got it all, brother. Over the following weeks, as his body recovered, Russell began crafting his revenge. Diego's intelligence gathering revealed that Brady had been systematically accessing Sentinel's client lists and proprietary technology for months, likely planning to strip the company of its innovations before eventually dismantling it. Audrey had already begun liquidating assets and transferring funds. The Blackwells were orchestrating a merger that would effectively give them control of the company Russell had built from nothing. Most disturbing was how quickly Audrey had moved on. 6 weeks after the tragedy, she and Brady were openly together, their relationship no longer hidden. Dad, when can we go home? Leo asked one evening as Russell tucked him in. Russell sat on the edge of the bed. This is our home for now, buddy. We can't go back to our old house. Because Mom and those people might hurt us again? Yes, Russell answered honestly. But I promise you this. They will never hurt you again. I'm going to make sure of that. Leo stared at him with eyes too old for his young face. Are you going to hurt them, Dad? Russell considered how to answer, then decided on the truth. Yes, Leo. Not physically, but I'm going to take back everything they stole from us. And they're going to face justice for what they tried to do. Leo was quiet for a long moment. Good, he finally said. They deserve it. The simple statement, delivered with a child's certainty, cemented Russell's resolve. He wasn't seeking revenge merely for himself, but for the innocence these people had stolen from his son. 3 months after their deaths, Russell was ready to begin. With new identities created by Vince, advanced surveillance technology from Diego, and Mitchell's unflagging support, they had everything they needed. Remember, Russell told his team as they reviewed the final plan, we do this my way. Legal consequences for their crimes when possible. Total destruction of their reputations, finances, and freedom when it's not. But Leo never learns the uglier details. The men nodded in solemn agreement. Russell knelt before his son. I have to go away for a little while, Leo. Uncle Mitchell will take care of you. Leo's eyes filled with tears. Are you coming back? Always, Russell promised. And when I do, we'll start our new life. Just you and me. As Russell prepared to leave, Mitchell handed him a secure phone. We're with you every step of the way. Justice for the Montgomery boys. Russell nodded, his eyes cold with purpose. Not justice, he corrected. Reckoning. Chapter 4. The Ghost in the Machine. Russell adjusted his appearance one final time. Dark hair, now silver gray at the temples, colored contacts changing his hazel eyes to blue, subtle facial prosthetics altering his cheekbones and jawline. The man in the mirror was Alexander Reed, international security consultant and potential investor. 6 months had passed since the cliff. 6 months of recovery, planning, and preparation. Now, Russell was ready to insert himself directly into his enemies' lives. Identity package is solid, Diego confirmed, handing over the final credentials. Background will withstand any standard check. The digital footprint goes back 15 years. Russell nodded. And the system access? Already in place, Diego replied. The backdoor you built into Sentinel security architecture is still there. Brady and Audrey never found it. The irony wasn't lost on Russell. The security system he designed to be impenetrable had a single vulnerability, one that only he knew about. It would now become his primary weapon. Russell's first target wasn't Audrey or Brady, but Howard Blackwell. The patriarch had orchestrated much of what happened, using his influence to expedite the death certificates and helping to transfer Russell's assets to Audrey with remarkable speed. From his hotel suite in downtown Seattle, Russell accessed Sentinel's client database using the hidden backdoor. Howard's company, Blackwell Development, had recently hired Sentinel to secure 3 major luxury condominium projects, contracts that Brady had undoubtedly arranged. Russell smiled coldly as he activated a subroutine in the security system's code. Nothing dramatic, just a subtle degradation of functionality that would trigger false alarms and system failures over the coming weeks. The next morning, Alexander Reed had a breakfast meeting with the vice president of Pacific Northwest Trust Bank, the primary financier of Blackwell's developments. The security concerns are troubling, Russell remarked casually over coffee. 3 system failures in 2 weeks at the lakefront property alone. The VP frowned. I wasn't aware of any security issues. No, it's been the talk of the industry. Russell passed over a tablet showing security incident reports, genuine Sentinel documents that he had accessed and modified. When systems from a company like Sentinel fail this consistently, it raises questions. By the end of the meeting, the VP was visibly concerned, promising to look into the matter personally. Similar conversations with insurance underwriters, potential tenants, and city inspectors followed over the next 2 weeks. Each interaction planted seeds of doubt about both Blackwell Development's projects and Sentinel's reliability. Meanwhile, Russell established himself as a legitimate presence in Seattle's business community. Alexander Reed attended charity functions, joined the right clubs, and gradually worked his way toward introduction to Brady Nolan, now Sentinel's chief technology officer. The meeting finally occurred at a technology conference where Brady was a featured speaker. Russell listened to the man who had tried to kill him talk about innovations that Russell himself had developed. Fascinating presentation, Russell commented, approaching Brady afterward. Though the quantum encryption protocol you described seems vulnerable to side-channel attacks. Brady's expression flickered between annoyance and uncertainty. That's not been our experience in field testing. Perhaps I misunderstood. Alexander Reed. Russell extended his hand, forcing Brady to shake it. I represent a consortium looking to invest in next-generation security tech. Brady's eyes lit up with greedy interest. Investment, you say? How substantial are we talking? Potentially 9 figures for the right company. Russell smiled. Would you have time for dinner this week to discuss it? The hook was set. Brady eagerly arranged a dinner meeting, clearly not recognizing the man whose life he had tried to take. That evening, Russell video called Leo, now living comfortably at Mitchell's mountain property. How's my boy doing? Russell asked, his heart warming at the sight of his son. Good. Uncle Mitchell's teaching me chess, and I started first grade at the homeschool program. Leo leaned closer to the screen. Did you see the bad people today? Russell nodded. I did, buddy. They didn't recognize me. When are you coming back? Soon, I promise. I miss you every minute. After saying goodnight to Leo, Russell opened his laptop to check on his other ongoing operations. The systematic destruction of Howard Blackwell's business reputation was proceeding perfectly. Construction delays had multiplied after building inspectors, tipped off by concerned sources, had found multiple code violations. The Pacific Northwest Trust Bank had put a hold on further financing pending a complete security review. Equally satisfying were the signs of strain between Howard and Brady. Surveillance showed increasingly heated arguments about Sentinel's failing systems at the Blackwell properties. As Russell prepared for bed, his secure phone chimed with a message from Diego, package delivered to Patricia Blackwell. Timing is scheduled. Russell smiled grimly. Patricia, the cold, calculating woman who had stood by while her daughter attempted to murder her grandson, was about to receive the first direct blow. The next day, as Russell sat down to dinner with Brady at one of Seattle's most exclusive restaurants, Patricia Blackwell was opening a package containing what appeared to be confidential medical reports accidentally sent to her. The documents, masterfully forged by Vince, detailed Howard's apparent diagnosis of early-onset dementia and his consultation with a specialized attorney about sheltering assets before his condition became publicly known. Patricia, ever protective of her social standing and wealth, would undoubtedly confront Howard, who would have no idea what she was talking about. The seeds of distrust would be planted in their marriage just as they were being planted in their business. "So, Mr. Reed," Brady said, swirling expensive wine in his glass, "tell me more about this investment opportunity." Russell leaned forward. "My clients are particularly interested in biometric security applications. I understand Sentinel has proprietary technology in that area." Brady couldn't hide his eagerness. "Absolutely. In fact, I personally developed our latest facial recognition algorithm." The blatant lie. Russell had developed that technology, confirmed what Russell already knew. Brady was a fraud, taking credit for others' innovations. "Impressive," Russell replied smoothly. "My consortium would be interested in an exclusive demonstration, something beyond what the general market has seen." Brady took the bait. "I might be able to arrange a private showing of technology still in development." "Excellent. Would next week work? And perhaps your partner could join us? I understand Audrey Montgomery is quite the force in the company now." Brady's smile faltered slightly. "How do you know about Audrey's role?" Russell maintained his pleasant expression. "Due diligence, Mr. Nolan. We research thoroughly before investing hundreds of millions." Brady relaxed. "Of course. I'll make sure Audrey is available." As dinner concluded, Russell reflected on how easily Brady had fallen into his trap. Soon, the man would be offering to share Sentinel's most closely guarded secrets, intellectual property worth billions, with a potential investor whose identity was entirely fabricated. More importantly, Russell would soon come face to face with Audrey, the woman who had tried to kill their child for money, the woman whose betrayal had been complete and absolute. Back in his hotel suite, Russell received another update from Diego. Howard and Patricia Blackwell were having a massive argument, with Patricia accusing Howard of hiding his condition and making secret plans to protect his money. Russell allowed himself a moment of cold satisfaction. The foundations were cracking. Soon, they would crumble entirely. But first, he needed to call Leo and wish him good night. Amid all the careful planning and calculated vengeance, that nightly call remained his anchor to humanity, the reminder of why this reckoning was necessary. "Good night, buddy," Russell said softly. "Remember, no matter what happens, you and I are a team." "The best team," Leo agreed sleepily. "Night, Dad. Get the bad guys." "I will," Russell promised. "That's a guarantee." Chapter 5. Webs of Deception. The penthouse conference room of Sentinel Security Solutions offered a panoramic view of Seattle's skyline. Russell, as Alexander Reed, sat across from Brady and Audrey, maintaining his pleasant investor persona while inwardly noting every detail of his wife's appearance. Audrey looked both the same and different. Her blonde hair was now cut in a sleek bob, her wardrobe more aggressively corporate. But the most significant change was in her eyes, harder, more calculating than Russell remembered. Had she always been this person, or had the act of attempted murder transformed her? "Our biometric recognition systems are industry-leading," Brady was saying, projecting confidence he didn't deserve. "The proprietary algorithms adapt to aging, subtle disguises, even certain types of cosmetic surgery." Russell allowed himself a small smile at the irony. The system Brady was boasting about had failed to recognize its creator, sitting right across the table. "Impressive claims," Russell replied, "though I understand there have been some reliability issues with Sentinel's systems recently." Audrey's smile tightened. "Isolated incidents, Mr. Reed. All technology experiences occasional glitches." "Of course," Russell conceded. "My consortium is primarily interested in the military and government applications. Those contracts are where the real value lies. Wouldn't you agree? Both Brady and Audrey leaned forward slightly, the subtle telepredators sensing prey. Sentinel has several government contracts, Brady confirmed eagerly. Though we're always looking to expand that portfolio, Audrey added. Russell nodded thoughtfully. My clients have connections in the defense sector that could prove valuable to both parties. However, before moving forward, they need to understand Sentinel's ownership structure. I understand there was a recent transition. A shadow passed over Audrey's face. My husband and son died in a tragic accident earlier this year. As Russell's wife and next of kin, ownership transferred to me. Not a flicker of genuine grief showed in her expression as she spoke about the tragic accident she had orchestrated. I'm sorry for your loss, Russell said, the words bitter in his mouth. Thank you, Audrey replied automatically. Fortunately, Brady has been both a personal support and a tremendous asset to the company during this difficult transition. Brady placed his hand over Audrey's in a practiced display of affection. We've managed to maintain Sentinel's market position while implementing several innovations that Russell, Audrey's late husband, had been reluctant to pursue. Russell maintained his neutral expression, though inwardly he seethed at Brady's casual disparagement. Such as, expanding into consumer data mining, Brady explained. There's immense value in the information our security systems can collect about household habits, purchasing patterns, daily routines. Privacy concerns don't trouble you? Russell asked mildly. Brady waved dismissively. Our end-user agreements cover us legally. Most consumers never read the fine print. The meeting continued for another hour, with Brady and Audrey revealing increasingly unethical plans for Sentinel's technology, selling personal data, creating backdoors for government surveillance, and monetizing security vulnerabilities instead of patching them. Everything they outlined contradicted the ethical principles upon which Russell had built the company. But their eagerness to impress a potential investor made them careless with information that would soon destroy them. As the meeting concluded, Russell expressed interest in a more detailed presentation the following week. And perhaps your in-laws could join us? I understand the Blackwells have significant influence in regional development. Synergies there could be valuable. Audrey and Brady exchange a quick glance. My parents are dealing with some personal matters at the moment, Audrey said carefully. Nothing serious, I hope? Russell inquired with practiced concern. Just business complications. And my father hasn't been feeling well. Russell nodded sympathetically. Of course. Another time, perhaps. After leaving Sentinel's offices, Russell contacted Diego. Update on the Blackwells? Their marriage is imploding, Diego confirmed. Patricia moved into their lake house yesterday, after consulting with a divorce attorney. Howard's busy trying to figure out why 3 of his development projects are suddenly facing regulatory issues and financing problems. And our banking maneuver? In progress. Vince's contact at the SEC has flagged the unusual transfer patterns from Sentinel's accounts. Preliminary audit scheduled for next month. Russell's next stop was the office of Thomas Willis, an investigative reporter known for exposing corporate malfeasance. As Alexander Reed, Russell had spent weeks cultivating Willis as a contact, positioning himself as a whistleblower concerned about unethical practices in the security industry. These came into my possession, Russell said, sliding a flash drive across the desk to Willis. Audio recordings of Sentinel executives discussing plans to sell private consumer data to third parties without adequate disclosure. Willis's eyes widened as he listened to excerpts, actual recordings Russell had made during his meeting with Brady and Audrey. This is explosive, Willis said, especially given Sentinel's government contracts. There's strict regulations about data handling. I thought you should know, Russell replied modestly. The public deserves to understand how their privacy is being compromised. Later that evening, Russell met with his final contact of the day, Special Agent Laura Morris of the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division. Your information on Blackwell development was accurate, Morris confirmed in a private room at an upscale restaurant. We found evidence of multiple code violations being covered up through bribes to inspectors. The investigation is expanding. What about the connection to Sentinel? Russell asked. We're looking into it. The timing of these security system failures seems suspiciously convenient for certain competitors. Russell nodded. I may have additional information that could help your investigation. He offered, producing documents showing irregular financial transfers between Blackwell Development and offshore accounts linked to Brady Nolan, transactions Diego had carefully documented. As Russell returned to his hotel, he received a video call from Mitchell. Leo appeared on screen, grinning widely to show a missing front tooth. Dad, look what happened today. Russell's carefully constructed veneer of Alexander Reed fell away instantly. Wow, buddy, did the tooth fairy visit? Uncle Mitchell says she's coming tonight. I'm going to stay up and try to see her. Russell laughed, a genuine sound that had become rare these past months. Good luck with that, Leo. I miss you. Miss you too. Are you coming home soon? Very soon, Russell promised. Just a little more work to do. After saying goodnight, Russell reviewed the progress of his plan. Howard Blackwell's business was crumbling under regulatory scrutiny and financial pressure. Patricia was filing for divorce, convinced her husband was hiding assets and mental decline. Brady and Audrey had unknowingly provided damning evidence of their unethical business practices to both the media and federal investigators. Most importantly, they were beginning to turn on each other. Howard blamed Brady for the failing security systems. Patricia suspected both Howard and Audrey of financial deception. Brady and Audrey were growing frustrated with the Blackwells' personal problems interfering with business. Russell opened his laptop and activated the final phase of his cyber strategy, a carefully constructed series of digital breadcrumbs suggesting that Brady had been systematically embezzling from Sentinel while deliberately sabotaging the company's security systems to distract from the theft. The evidence would initially appear only as subtle anomalies in the company's financial reporting, just enough to trigger concerns from the board members Diego had quietly contacted. But once investigators started looking, the trail would lead directly to Brady. Russell's phone chimed with a message from Vince. Package 2 delivered to Patricia Blackwell. The second accidental delivery, banking statements showing Howard had recently opened accounts in the Caymans and transferred significant assets there, would accelerate the collapse of their marriage. Russell allowed himself a grim smile as he prepared for bed. The web was tightening around all of them. Soon, it would be time for the final confrontation, but not before each of them had been systematically stripped of everything they valued. As he drifted towards sleep, Russell pictured Leo's smiling face. The pain of Audrey's betrayal would never fully heal, especially for their son. But Russell would ensure that those responsible paid the full price for what they had done. Tomorrow would bring him one step closer to that reckoning. Chapter 6: Fault Lines. 9 days later, Russell watched from his hotel room as Thomas Willis's investigative report dominated the morning news cycle. Security giant Sentinel accused of massive privacy violations and data selling scheme. The story detailed how the company had allegedly created backdoors in its security systems to harvest private data from homes and businesses, selling that information to marketing firms and data brokers without customer knowledge or consent. Sentinel stock had plummeted 28% in pre-market trading. The company's PR team was in full crisis mode, issuing denials that rang hollow against the damning audio evidence Willis had published. Russell's phone rang, Diego with a morning update. FBI just arrived at Sentinel headquarters with search warrants, Diego reported. And you'll love this. Brady tried to access those Cayman accounts last night to move funds, but found them frozen. Audrey, calling every board member, trying to distance herself from the privacy scandal, blaming it all on Brady's unauthorized initiatives that she just learned about. Russell nodded, unsurprised by Audrey's betrayal of her partner. And the Blackwells? Patricia filed for divorce yesterday, demanding an emergency freeze on all joint assets. Howard had a very public meltdown at his country club, accusing multiple members of conspiring against him. Security escorted him out. Everything was proceeding according to plan, perhaps even better than expected. The carefully constructed lives of those who had tried to kill him and Leo were disintegrating rapidly, with minimal direct action from Russell himself. He had simply created the conditions for their own worst impulses to flourish. What's your next move? Diego asked. Time for Alexander Reed to express his concerns about investing in a company under federal investigation, Russell replied. I have a meeting with Audrey in 2 hours. Sentinel's headquarters buzzed with barely contained chaos when Russell arrived. Employees huddled in worried groups, while FBI agents methodically collected evidence from executive offices. Audrey's assistant, looking harried, escorted Russell past a conference room where Brady was being interviewed by federal agents. Ms. Montgomery apologizes for the disruption, the assistant said. As you can see, we're dealing with some unexpected issues today. Audrey waited in her office, formerly Russell's office, looking remarkably composed given the circumstances. Only the tightness around her eyes betrayed her stress. Mr. Reed, she greeted him with forced warmth. Thank you for coming despite this morning's misunderstanding. Misunderstanding seems a mild term for federal agents with search warrants, Russell observed, taking a seat across from her. Audrey's smile didn't reach her eyes. A competitor's smear campaign, nothing more. Brady made some unfortunate statements that were taken out of context, but there's no substance to these allegations. The recordings sound quite substantive, Russell countered mildly. Edited and manipulated. Audrey dismissed with a wave of her hand. We'll weather this storm. Sentinel's foundations are strong. The irony of her statement wasn't lost on Russell. The foundation she stood upon, his company, his innovation, his life's work, had been stolen through attempted murder. I hope you're right, Russell said. However, my consortium must delay any investment decisions until these legal matters are resolved. I'm sure you understand. Frustration flashed across Audrey's face before she masked it. Of course, though this could present an opportunity for a visionary investor. Our stock is temporarily undervalued. Perhaps. There's another matter I wanted to discuss, a personal one, if you don't mind. Audrey raised an eyebrow. Personal? I understand you lost your husband and son recently. Tragic circumstances. Something flickered in Audrey's eyes. Not grief, but wariness. Yes, a hiking accident. Strange coincidence. Russell continued conversationally. I was hiking in that same area around that time. Beautiful but treacherous terrain. Mr. Reed, I don't see how this is relevant to. Tell me, Russell interrupted, his tone still pleasant, but with an underlying edge. When you planned to kill your husband and child, did you consider alternative methods? The cliff seems so uncertain. Audrey froze, color draining from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. My family died in a tragic accident. Russell leaned forward slightly. Did they? No bodies were ever recovered, as I understand it. Who are you? Audrey whispered, her hand moving toward her desk drawer. I wouldn't, Russell advised quietly. The gun in that drawer has been disabled. Audrey's hand stopped. Security, she called out sharply. They're rather busy with the FBI at the moment, Russell informed her. And your office security cameras are on a loop, a feature of the system I designed. Recognition dawned in Audrey's eyes as Russell removed his colored contacts, revealing his natural hazel eyes. No, she breathed. It's not possible. Many things seem impossible until they happen, Russell replied, his voice now dropping its affected accent. Like a mother trying to murder her child for money. Audrey's shock quickly hardened in a calculation. You can't prove anything. It was an accident. Your word against mine. That might have been true 6 months ago, Russell acknowledged. But now, your parents' marriage is destroyed. Brady is about to be indicted for fraud and embezzlement. Your company is under federal investigation. And most importantly, he produced a small recorder. You just tacitly admitted to knowing I'm your supposedly dead husband. Audrey's mask of composure shattered. What do you want? Money? The company back. I want you to understand something, Audrey, Russell said, his voice deadly quiet. Everything happening to you, to Brady, to your parents, this is just the beginning. By the time I'm finished, you'll have nothing. No freedom, no reputation, no future. Just like you planned for me and our son. Leo, Audrey whispered. He's alive too? The son you were willing to murder? Yes, he's alive and well. And he knows exactly what you tried to do to him. Tears filled Audrey's eyes. Whether from genuine emotion or calculated manipulation, Russell couldn't tell and didn't care. Russell, please. It was Brady's idea. He manipulated me, convinced me. Save it. Russell cut her off coldly. I heard you laugh about our deaths on the phone. Leo heard you. There's no coming back from that. A knock at the door interrupted them. Audrey quickly composed herself as her assistant poked her head in. Ms. Montgomery, the FBI agents would like to speak with you now. Tell them I'll be right there. Audrey replied with remarkable steadiness. When the assistant withdrew, Audrey fixed Russell with a calculating stare. This isn't over. Oh, I agree. Russell rose to leave. It's far from over. But understand this. I'm not just going to destroy what you have. I'm going to make you destroy each other. As Russell walked out of Sentinel's headquarters, he knew Audrey would immediately warn Brady and her parents. They would scramble to form a united front against this new threat. But it was too late. The seeds of distrust had already been planted too deeply. Each of them would now suspect the others of being willing to cut deals and shift blame. Their alliance of convenience would fracture under pressure. Russell's phone buzzed with a text from Mitchell. Leo's school project won first prize. He wants to tell you himself tonight. A genuine smile crossed Russell's face. Amid all the calculated vengeance, this reminder of his son's continuing life and achievements grounded him. Everything he was doing, the destruction of those who had betrayed them, was to secure Leo's future and ensure justice for the innocents they had tried to steal. That evening, as Russell packed his hotel room in preparation for the next phase of his plan, breaking news flashed across the television. Sentinel Security CEO Audrey Montgomery arrested on conspiracy charges. The reporter detailed how federal investigators had discovered evidence linking Audrey to Brady Nolan's alleged embezzlement scheme. Even more damaging, anonymous sources had provided information suggesting the company had been selling security vulnerabilities to hackers targeting specific high-value clients. Russell hadn't planned for Audrey's arrest quite this soon, but he wasn't surprised. Once federal investigators started digging, they would find a trail of evidence Diego had carefully constructed, all pointing to very real crimes that Audrey and Brady had committed in their greed to control Sentinel. His secure phone rang, Vince with an urgent update. Howard Blackwell just tried to flee the country, Vince reported. Customs stopped him at Seattle-Tacoma Airport with over $2 million in bearer bonds in his luggage. He's being detained for questioning. And Patricia? Filing amended divorce papers tomorrow citing new evidence of criminal conspiracy. She's trying to distance herself completely. Russell nodded, satisfaction coursing through him. They're turning on each other even faster than expected. There's more, Vince continued. Brady's lawyer reached out to the FBI about a potential deal. He's offering information on, quote, a conspiracy to commit murder in exchange for leniency on the financial crimes. So Brady was attempting to save himself by revealing the Cliff incident. It was a predictable move, but ultimately futile. Without bodies or physical evidence, it would be his word against circumstantial evidence. More importantly, the attempted murder would now become part of the official record, ensuring that Audrey, Brady, and the Blackwells would be investigated for the crime, even if conclusive proof remained elusive. Perfect, Russell said. Let them tear each other apart. Later that night, Russell video called Leo as promised. Dad, my volcano won first prize. The judges said the chemical reaction was the best in the whole school. Russell beamed with pride. That's amazing, buddy. I knew you could do it. Uncle Mitchell helped with the wiring for the lights, but I did all the chemistry myself. I can't wait to see it in person. And guess what? I'm coming home tomorrow. Leo's eyes widened. Really? Are you done with your mission? Almost, Russell replied. The bad people are facing justice now. But there's one more thing I need to do, and then we can start our new life. Promise? I promise, Leo. Nothing will ever separate us again. After saying goodnight, Russell made one final call to the Seattle District Attorney's office. Using a voice modulator, he provided an anonymous tip about potential evidence regarding Russell and Leo Montgomery's accidental deaths, evidence that could be found in Brady Nolan's private storage facility. The storage unit, rented by Diego under Brady's name months earlier, contained damning items. Detailed maps of the Cliff area with the accident spot marked, life insurance documents for Russell and Leo, with Audrey as beneficiary, and a burner phone with text messages discussing the plan. None of it would stand up to intense forensic scrutiny, but it didn't need to. It only needed to create enough suspicion to ensure that the attempted murder wouldn't be forgotten amid the financial crimes investigation. Russell looked out at the Seattle skyline one last time. Tomorrow, he would leave this identity behind and return to Leo. The machinery of justice, both legal and personal, was now fully in motion. As he turned away from the window, Russell's expression hardened with cold resolve. The final act of his reckoning was about to begin. Chapter 7. House of Cards. The King County Detention Center's visiting room was sterile and impersonal. White walls, bolted-down furniture, and omnipresent surveillance cameras. Brady Nolan, dressed in an orange jumpsuit, looked nothing like the confident executive who had tried to steal Russell's life and company. His face was haggard, his eyes haunted. Russell, now using the identity of Michael Kincaid, attorney, sat across from him, legal pad in hand. "I don't understand," Brady said, frowning. "I requested a meeting with the district attorney, not another lawyer. The DA sent me to evaluate your claim about the Montgomery deaths before committing to a formal meeting," Russell explained smoothly. "I need to assess whether your information has any actual value." Brady leaned forward eagerly. "It does. Audrey Montgomery planned the whole thing. She wanted her husband and kid dead to get control of Sentinel and the insurance money. Her parents helped set it up. And your role in this alleged murder attempt?" Russell asked, his voice professionally detached despite the rage simmering beneath. "I was manipulated," Brady insisted, the lie coming easily. "Audrey told me she was in an abusive relationship, that she feared for her life. I was trying to help her escape a dangerous situation." Russell made notes, his face betraying nothing. "And you have evidence of this conspiracy?" "Some of it was in my storage unit, but the police have that now. Look, I can testify against Audrey and her parents. They're the masterminds. I just went along because I believed Audrey was in danger." "Interesting perspective," Russell commented, "though it contradicts Ms. Montgomery's statement that you orchestrated the entire plan to gain control of Sentinel's proprietary technology." Brady's face flushed with anger. "She's lying. That bitch is trying to pin everything on me." "What about Howard and Patricia Blackwell? They claim you approached them with a murder plan, promising them a share of Sentinel in exchange for their help." "That's bullshit." Brady slammed his hand on the table, drawing a warning look from the guard. Lowering his voice, he continued, "The Blackwells hated Russell from day one. They were pushing for his elimination long before I came into the picture." Russell nodded thoughtfully. "So everyone is lying except you?" "Yes. I mean," Brady ran his hands through his unkempt hair. "I made mistakes, but I'm not a murderer. I deserve a deal." "Perhaps," Russell allowed. "But there's one problem with your account." "What's that?" Russell leaned closer, his voice dropping. "The cliff." Brady blinked in confusion. "What about it? If you were merely helping an abused woman escape, why choose a method that looked like an accident? Why not go to the police? Why involve a 6-year-old child?" Brady shifted uncomfortably. "That wasn't my idea. Audrey insisted the kid had to go too, or Russell's money would be tied up in trust for years." The casual way Brady discussed Leo's intended murder sent a wave of cold fury through Russell. He maintained his professional demeanor with supreme effort. "I see. One last question, Mr. Nolan. Do you ever wonder if Russell and Leo Montgomery might have survived the fall?" Brady scoffed. "Impossible. 200 feet onto jagged rocks. No way they survived. Yet no bodies were ever recovered. The area is full of deep crevices. Animals. The elements." Brady dismissed the notion with a wave. "They're dead. Trust me." Russell gathered his notes and rose. "Thank you for your candor, Mr. Nolan. I'll convey your desire for a deal to the district attorney." "Wait, when will I hear back?" "My arraignment is tomorrow." "Justice moves at its own pace, Mr. Nolan," Russell replied, a cold smile touching his lips. "But I suspect your future will be decided quite soon." As Russell left the detention center, he made 3 calls, digitally altered recordings of his conversation with Brady, sent to Audrey's attorney, Howard Blackwell's attorney, and Patricia Blackwell's home number. By nightfall, all three parties would know that Brady was attempting to save himself by portraying them as the primary conspirators in a murder plot. Their fragile alliance would shatter completely. Russell's next stop was the offices of Thomas Willis, the investigative reporter who had broken the Sentinel privacy scandal. "I have something that might interest you," Russell told the journalist, sliding a flash drive across the desk. Audio recordings of Brady Nolan discussing his role in the disappearance of Russell and Leo Montgomery. Willis's eyes widened. "The CEO who died in that hiking accident months ago? Are you suggesting it wasn't an accident?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Russell replied carefully. "I'm merely providing information that the public deserves to know. You'll find corroborating evidence on that drive as well. Financial transactions, communications, witness statements." "This is explosive," Willis murmured, already scanning the files. "If this checks out, we're talking about a corporate coup executed through murder." "Attempted murder," Russell corrected quietly. "Review the medical examiner's reports carefully. You'll notice they declared death without recovering bodies." Willis looked up sharply. "Are you saying Montgomery and his son might be alive?" Russell merely smiled. "I'm saying the truth deserves to come to light. All of it." That evening, from the safety of Mitchell's mountain property, Russell watched the dominoes continue to fall. Breaking news alerts reported that Howard Blackwell had been charged with multiple counts of bribery and fraud related to his development projects. Patricia Blackwell had announced through her attorney that she was cooperating with authorities in exchange for immunity. Most satisfyingly, Audrey's attorney had withdrawn from her case, citing irreconcilable differences regarding defense strategy. A clear indication that Audrey had likely admitted guilt to her lawyer while attempting to shift blame. Leo bounded into the room, interrupting Russell's thoughts. "Dad, Uncle Diego brought a puppy. Can we keep him?" Russell laughed, the sound genuine and warm. "A puppy, huh? Let me see this creature." He followed Leo outside, where Diego waited with a small German shepherd mix who immediately ran to Leo. "Found him at a rescue," Diego explained. "Thought the little man could use a friend." Russell watched his son rolling in the grass with the puppy, his heart full. Tomorrow would bring the final phase of his plan, a direct confrontation that would complete the destruction of those who had tried to take this away from him. But tonight was for his son, for remembering why he had fought so hard to survive and return. "What are you going to name him?" Russell asked, kneeling beside Leo. Leo looked thoughtful, then broke into a grin. "Phoenix. Because he got a second chance, just like us." Russell hugged his son tightly. "Phoenix it is. A perfect name." Later, after Leo had gone to bed, Russell reviewed the final elements of his plan with his team. "The press conference is set for 10 a.m., Mitchell confirmed. "All major networks will cover it. Sentinel's board is meeting at 9 a.m. to discuss the company's future," Diego added. "With Brady and Audrey both in custody and the stock in freefall, they're desperate for stability." Vince handed Russell a secure phone. "Your call to the board is scheduled for 9:15. Everything else is in place." Russell nodded. "Good. After tomorrow, we can all move on with our lives." "Are you sure about this approach?" Mitchell asked quietly. "It's more public than we discussed initially." "I'm sure," Russell replied firmly. "This isn't just about personal revenge anymore. It's about justice for Leo, for myself, and for everyone they were willing to hurt in their greed." As his friends departed to finalize preparations, Russell checked on Leo one last time. His son slept peacefully, the puppy curled against his side. The sight strengthened Russell's resolve. Tomorrow would bring the final reckoning, not through violence or illegal means, but through the complete and irrevocable exposure of truth. A truth that would destroy his enemies more thoroughly than any physical vengeance could achieve. Russell returned to his study and opened a secured laptop. On the screen was a simple document, his sworn testimony about the events at the cliff, supported by evidence his team had gathered over the past months. He added one final sentence, then closed the file. Justice was coming, and it would be absolute. Chapter 8. Resurrection Day. The Sentinel Security Solutions boardroom hummed with tense conversation. 9 board members, wealthy investors and industry veterans, debated the company's uncertain future in light of the cascading scandals. The stock has lost 63% of its value in 10 days, the CFO reported grimly. Major clients are terminating contracts hourly. We're facing a class action lawsuit from customers over the privacy violations. And the criminal investigations? Asked Eleanor Winters, the most senior board member. Expanding daily. Beyond the fraud and embezzlement charges against Nolan and Montgomery, the Seattle DA is now investigating possible murder conspiracy charges related to Russell Montgomery's death. The room fell silent at this last revelation. This company cannot survive much more negative publicity, Eleanor stated flatly. We need to consider all options, including selling core assets and dissolving the corporation. The boardroom phone rang, startling everyone. The CFO glanced at the display. It's the call from MK Ventures that was scheduled. Should I postpone? Eleanor shook her head. Take it. At this point, any potential lifeline is worth exploring. The CFO activated the speakerphone. This is the Sentinel board. We're on a secure line. Good morning. Russell's voice came through clearly, though none present recognized it. I understand Sentinel is facing some challenges. That's putting it mildly, Eleanor replied dryly. Are you still interested in discussing acquisition given recent developments? More than interested, Russell answered. In fact, I'm prepared to make an offer for controlling interest in Sentinel, effective immediately. The board members exchanged glances of surprise and cautious relief. That's unexpected given the company's current situation, the CFO remarked. On the contrary, Russell countered. It's precisely because of the current situation that this opportunity exists. My offer is straightforward. I'll inject $350 million in immediate capital in exchange for 51% ownership. Murmurs of shock rippled through the room. The amount was a fraction of what Sentinel had been worth weeks ago, but significantly more than its current market valuation. This is contingent on immediate board acceptance and two non-negotiable conditions, Russell continued. First, all current executives are removed, giving me complete operational control. Second, all proprietary technology and patents are secured in a new holding company under my exclusive management. May I ask why you take such a risk on a company in our position? Eleanor asked cautiously. Because I understand Sentinel's true value better than anyone, Russell replied. As for my identity, I suggest you turn on any news channel. My press conference is about to begin. Confused, the CFO activated the large screen on the boardroom wall, tuning to a national news network. The camera showed a podium set up outside the federal courthouse in Seattle, where a crowd of reporters had gathered. The board watched in stunned silence as Russell Montgomery, presumed dead for months, stepped up to the microphone, very much alive. Ladies and gentlemen, Russell began, his voice steady. My name is Russell Montgomery. 8 months ago, my 6-year-old son Leo and I were pushed from a cliff in an attempted murder orchestrated by my wife, Audrey Montgomery, her lover Brady Nolan, and her parents, Howard and Patricia Blackwell. Gasps and shouts erupted from the press corps. We survived by pretending to be dead, Russell continued calmly. While recovering from our injuries, I uncovered evidence of their conspiracy, motivated by greed for control of my company, Sentinel Security Solutions, and the millions in life insurance they had taken out without my knowledge. In the Sentinel boardroom, chaos erupted as board members realized they were watching their company's founder, supposedly dead, exposing a conspiracy on national television. I am alive. My son is alive. And I have returned to reclaim what was stolen from us, Russell stated firmly. I have provided federal prosecutors with extensive evidence of the conspiracy against us, as well as documentation of the fraud, embezzlement, and privacy violations committed by the conspirators after our supposed deaths. Russell looked directly into the camera. To the board of Sentinel Security Solutions, I founded this company with a commitment to ethical security solutions. That legacy has been betrayed. You have 15 minutes to accept the offer presented to you moments ago, or I will use my remaining shares and founder's privileges to initiate the dissolution of the company entirely. In the boardroom, the phone remained open on the conference table. Through it came Russell's voice once more. Your time starts now. The next 14 minutes were a blur of frantic discussion, legal consultations, and ultimately, recognition of the inevitable. With 1 minute remaining, Eleanor Winters spoke into the phone. The board accepts your offer and conditions, Mr. Montgomery. We will execute the necessary paperwork immediately. Wise decision, Russell responded. My attorneys will contact you within the hour. At the press conference, Russell continued addressing the stunned media. I built Sentinel Security Solutions to protect people. Instead, under new leadership, it was corrupted into a tool for surveillance and data theft. That ends today. I have returned to rebuild this company with its original mission and ethics. A reporter shouted, Mr. Montgomery, where have you and your son been all these months? In a secure location, recovering from our injuries and gathering evidence, Russell replied. My son has shown remarkable courage throughout this ordeal. Will you testify against your wife and the others? Another called out. Russell's expression hardened. Absolutely. Justice requires that those who conspire to commit murder, especially against a child, face the full consequences of their actions. I will not rest until everyone involved is held accountable. Across town, in separate holding cells, Audrey Montgomery and Brady Nolan watched the press conference with expressions of shocked disbelief. Audrey sank to her knees, her carefully constructed world collapsing completely. Not only had her murder plot failed, but her husband, the man she had tried to kill, now controlled everything she had schemed to possess. Brady paced his cell frantically, realizing that his attempt to cut a deal had just become worthless. With Russell alive and presenting evidence directly to prosecutors, there would be no leniency. At their lake house, Patricia Blackwell watched the television in horror. A half-packed suitcase opened beside her. Her phone rang. Her attorney, undoubtedly calling to tell her that her immunity deal was now worthless with Russell's public resurrection. Howard Blackwell, in his own detention cell awaiting a bond hearing, simply stared at the television in stunned silence. The press conference continued with Russell answering questions calmly and directly. When asked about his plans for the future, his response was measured but firm. My first priority has always been my son's well-being. My second is ensuring that those who betrayed us face justice. And my third is rebuilding what was nearly destroyed by greed and betrayal. Back at Mitchell's mountain property, Leo watched his father on television, sitting between Mitchell and Diego. Your dad is pretty amazing, Mitchell told the boy. Leo nodded solemnly. The bad people can't hurt us anymore, right? Never again, Diego assured him. Your dad made sure of that. As the press conference concluded, Russell returned to the secured SUV where his team waited. It's done, he told them. The board accepted. Sentinel is back under our control. And our new identities? Vince asked. Still valuable, Russell replied. We'll maintain them for Leo's sake. A fresh start, away from the media attention. But first we finish this. The next morning, Russell sat in the district attorney's office, providing formal statements about the attempted murder and subsequent events. With his testimony and the evidence his team had gathered, the DA assured him that charges against all 4 conspirators will be expanded to include attempted murder, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. They'll try to cut deals, the DA warned, especially the Blackwells. Let them try, Russell replied coldly. My son and I will testify to what happened on that cliff. And I have evidence of their conversations planning our deaths. Later that day, Russell returned to Sentinel headquarters for the first time since his death. Employees stared in shock as he walked through the offices, Mitchell and Diego flanking him like bodyguards. In the executive suite, his old office, which Audrey had redecorated, Russell called together the remaining management team. Effective immediately, I am resuming control as CEO, he announced without preamble. The company will undergo complete restructuring. Those who participated in or facilitated the privacy violations and data selling will be terminated. Those who oppose these practices will be rewarded. One brave executive raised her hand. Sir, the company's reputation is salvageable, Russell finished firmly. We will issue full refunds to affected customers, implement transparent privacy practices, and rebuild trust through actions, not words. As the meeting concluded, Russell remained alone in the office that had once been his. He removed Audrey's personal items from the desk, placing them in a box for her attorneys to collect. Among her things, he found a family photograph. Russell, Audrey, and Leo at the lake house the previous summer. They looked happy, normal. The perfect family. It had all been a lie. Russell placed the photograph face down in the box. That chapter of his life was over. Now, he focused only on securing justice and building a new future for himself and Leo. His phone rang. Mitchell. "Thought you'd want to know," his friend said without preamble. "Brady Nolan is trying to hang himself on Audrey." His new attorney just offered the DA a full confession, including details about how Audrey planned everything months in advance. "Let them destroy each other," Russell replied. "It saves us the trouble." That evening, as Russell prepared to return to the mountain property and Leo, he received one final call from Eleanor Winters. "The board has officially ratified your return as CEO and majority owner," she informed him. "And we owe you an apology for not questioning the circumstances of your alleged death more thoroughly. You were misled by expert manipulators," Russell acknowledged. "But going forward, I expect better judgment." "Understood. There's one more thing. Audrey's attorney has requested a meeting with you. Something about information you might want." Russell considered this. "Arrange it for tomorrow morning, but I'll only give her 15 minutes. The next day, in a small conference room of the county jail, Russell came face-to-face with Audrey for the first time since revealing his survival. She looked diminished somehow, her designer clothes replaced by prison garb, her perfect makeup absent, her confident posture now slumped. "Russell," she began, her voice quavering. "I never thought—" "Save it," he cut her off coldly. "You have 13 minutes remaining. Use them wisely." Audrey's facade cracked entirely. "Please, Russell. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Brady pushed me into it. He threatened me. I was scared and confused. Is that why you laughed about our deaths on the phone?" Russell asked, his voice deadly quiet. "Because you were scared and confused?" Audrey's eyes widened. "You heard. Leo heard too," Russell informed her. "Your son heard you laugh about killing him." Tears spilled down Audrey's cheeks. "I'll tell them everything. I'll testify against Brady, against my parents. They were the masterminds." "The prosecutors already have everything they need," Russell replied evenly. "But feel free to turn on your co-conspirators. It changes nothing for you." "Please," Audrey whispered desperately. "For the sake of what we once had." "We had nothing," Russell cut her off. "Everything was a lie. You never loved me or Leo. You just wanted what I built." "That's not true. I loved you once. Before Brady." Russell stood, having heard enough. "Your time's up. Goodbye, Audrey." As he turned to leave, she called after him in desperation. "What about Leo? He needs his mother." Russell paused at the door, looking back at her with cold contempt. "Leo has everything he needs, and he knows exactly what his mother tried to do to him. That's her legacy, Audrey. That's what you'll be remembered for." With that, Russell walked away, never looking back. Chapter 9. Unforgiving Depths. 3 years later, the lakeside home on the outskirts of Portland bore little resemblance to Russell's former Seattle residence. Smaller, more modest, but infinitely warmer. It reflected the priorities of its occupants rather than serving as a status symbol. Russell, now living under the name Richard Miller, watched from the deck as 9-year-old Leo played fetch with Phoenix in the yard. The boy had grown taller, more confident in the 3 years since their resurrection. Therapy had helped him process the trauma of his mother's betrayal, though some wounds would never completely heal. Looking philosophical today, Mitchell observed, joining Russell with coffee mugged for them both. "Just appreciative," Russell replied, accepting the coffee. 3 years ago, I wasn't sure we'd make it to this point." Mitchell nodded. "Heard from Vince this morning. Audrey's final appeal was denied. She'll serve the full 25 years. Russell showed no reaction to this news. His ex-wife's fate had ceased to matter to him long ago. After their confrontation in the jail, he had focused entirely on rebuilding both Sentinel Security Solutions and his life with Leo. The company had recovered under his leadership, though he had eventually sold his majority stake for billions, preferring to focus on raising his son away from the corporate world. Brady Nolan had received 30 years for his role in the murder plot, embezzlement, and corporate fraud. Howard Blackwell had died of a heart attack while awaiting trial, while Patricia had plea bargained for a reduced sentence of 15 years. And the foundation? Mitchell asked, changing the subject. Russell's expression softened. Funding 30 new child trauma centers across the country this year. Leo's idea, actually. The Phoenix Foundation, named for Leo's dog and the symbolism of their own rebirth, had become Russell's primary focus. Using much of his fortune, the foundation specialized in helping children who had survived trauma and betrayal. "Dad," Leo called from below. "Uncle Diego's here." Diego's car pulled into the driveway, and soon the four of them were seated on the deck, catching up. Diego now ran security for the foundation, while Mitchell managed its operations. The bonds forged during their military service and strengthened during Russell's darkest days had evolved into a chosen family. "How's school going, champion?" Diego asked Leo. "Great. I got the highest score on our science test yesterday," Leo reported proudly. "And I'm starting karate next week." Russell smiled at his son's enthusiasm. Despite everything he had experienced, Leo had emerged resilient and compassionate, though with a wariness beyond his years when meeting new people. Later, after Diego and Mitchell had left and Leo was in bed, Russell sat alone on the deck, contemplating the still waters of the lake. His secure phone, maintained for Foundation business, chimed with a message from the warden of the women's prison where Audrey was serving her sentence. "Per protocol, informing you of prisoner Montgomery's request for a meeting with her son. Requires your approval as legal guardian." Russell deleted the message without responding. Like every previous request, this one would be denied. Leo had been clear from the beginning. He wanted nothing to do with the mother who had tried to kill him. "Dad," Leo's voice came from behind him. "Can't sleep." Russell turned, opening his arms as his son came to sit beside him. "Bad dream." Leo shrugged. "Just thinking too much. Uncle Diego mentioned Mom's appeal today when he thought I couldn't hear." Russell sighed. "I'm sorry, buddy. We shouldn't have discussed that around you." "It's okay," Leo replied. "I'm glad she's staying in prison." Russell studied his son's face in the moonlight. "How do you feel about all of it now? It's been a while since we really talked about it." Leo considered the question with a maturity that sometimes startled Russell. "I used to wonder if I should try to forgive her someday," he admitted. "Ms. Patterson at school says forgiveness helps the person doing the forgiving." Russell nodded, but remained silent, letting Leo work through his thoughts. "But I don't think I will," Leo continued. "She didn't just try to hurt us. She laughed about it. That's not something you forgive." Unable to argue with his son's assessment, Russell simply put his arm around Leo's shoulders. "It's okay either way, buddy. Some things go beyond forgiveness, and that's a personal choice only you can make." Leo leaned against his father. "I'm glad we're like you, Dad." "Like me?" "Yeah. Strong enough not to forgive people who don't deserve it. Strong enough to start over." Russell felt a complex mix of emotions at his son's words. Pride at Leo's resilience. Sadness that he had been forced to develop such wisdom so young. And certainty that they had made the right choice in leaving their old lives behind. "Want to know a secret?" Russell asked quietly. Leo nodded. "I'm stronger because of you." "Not the other way around," Russell admitted. "Surviving that day, rebuilding our lives, I did it for you." Leo smiled. "We did it together. The Montgomery boys." "The Miller boys now," Russell corrected gently. "New names, new start." Leo yawned. "Same team, though. Always," Russell promised. "Now back to bed. You've got that field trip tomorrow." After tucking Leo in again, Russell returned to the deck, his thoughts turning to the future rather than the past. Next week, he would finalize the purchase of a small cybersecurity firm developing technology to protect children online, another extension of the Foundation's mission. His phone buzzed with a text from Vince, reporter from Seattle Times, asking questions about the Montgomery case again. Third anniversary of the resurrection coming up. Wanting to handle it. Russell typed a simple reply, standard response. No comments, no interviews. The public's fascination with their story had never fully waned. Books had been written, a documentary produced, and occasional news retrospectives appeared on major anniversaries. Russell ignored them all, focusing instead on building something meaningful from the wreckage of betrayal. As he prepared for bed, Russell glanced at a framed photograph on his nightstand. Leo and Phoenix at the lake last summer, both looking joyful and carefree. Not the perfect family portrait from his previous life, but something real and honest. The betrayal had taken much from them, but it had also revealed truths that might otherwise have remained hidden. About Audrey and her parents, about the facade of their marriage, about human capacity for both cruelty and loyalty. Most importantly, it had taught Russell that true strength wasn't just about survival or even revenge. It was about rebuilding, about protecting what mattered, about recognizing that while some betrayals went too deep for forgiveness, they didn't have to define the future. As he drifted towards sleep, Russell's last thoughts were not of Audrey or the conspirators now serving their sentences. They weren't even about the triumph of his revenge or the satisfaction of justice. Instead, he thought of Leo's science test, of Phoenix's upcoming veterinary appointment, of the Foundation's new projects. The past had been about survival and reckoning. The future would be about living. In some depths, both of betrayal and of resolve.